All right, we are going live right now. Sorry, we're a little bit late on the stream. Scheduling has been a little hectic, but yeah, here we are. So per usual, if you've arrived at the show, feel free to ask any questions, SEO related, digital marketing related, or whatever you want. And I, Nick Altamore of Sirlinks a lot, will answer them here on a live stream. To get started, I've got some website audits that I need to do. And so I'm going to knock them out here at the beginning of the live stream. And as y'all trickle in, go ahead and ask your questions, and I will answer them for you. So let's get you a screenshot going of what we're going to do. And pulled up over here, you can see SEO Roundtable, which I realize a lot of you that are on YouTube are not familiar with the fact that we've got a group on Facebook, SEO Roundtable. You can join up. We're sharing info in there every single day. That's where you can find out, kind of what's going on. And if you've got any questions, there is a huge community of roughly 7,000 to 8,000 people right now, eager to help out. So if you're not already in there, join up. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you like the show, it helps us out substantially. And again, just setting up a site audit here so we can go over some of that. Think about that. Welcome in. Just setting up a site audit right now. Almost set here, guys and gals. Sorry for the delay. All right, here we go. Site audit time. Haven't done one of these in a while, at least not on live streams. So I figured it'd be a good way to start. We might do a couple of these. Again, if you're coming up to the show, feel free to ask anything and I will answer it as soon as we're done with these. All right, so this one, please do my site. We're in the videography niche. It's a local site. And that's about all the info that I was given on this one. So let's go ahead and jump in here and take a look. Again, we're using Ahrefs to do our site audits. It's the main tool. We are not sponsored by them or anything. Wish we were. But this gives us the most data. For those of you that are a little bit newer, this is how we're basically going to do everything. Now, there are competitors, SEMrush, Majestic, things of that nature, and they're good as well. But this is just our preference. And site audit, typically, I'm going to go through the same motions unless I get hit with something random. So first off, I'm going to go to the actual site and just have a quick look at this. All right, looks clean, very personalized, good branding. Is it all one page here? Okay. Curious if this is built on WordPress, as it's got a kind of Squarespace sort of feel to it, but yeah, so a lot is on the home page. I mean, it's a clean site for local. It looks like it's fleshed out the way it's supposed to be. One point of interest here is that you've got your home page, then you've got a locations page, right? And I know you're a photographer. I don't know if you're primarily a wedding photographer. However, typically for a local site, you're going to have your locations page, and then you're also going to have a services section. So if you're a wedding photographer and that's exclusively what you do, then you're niche down here, and that's fine. If you offer anything else, then it would make sense to kind of have those extra services page. And sometimes, even just from a search perspective, that could help out. But okay, then you've got your portfolio, you've got a blog. One thing I'm not seeing here is clearly defined EEAT. And we've got a lot of videos on EEAT, but I'm not seeing an address in here. And if you are a local company, then I definitely want to see an address, to at least get the GMB that's closest to you. As I imagine that's going to relate to a lot of calls, same as any other local SEO. The GMB is going to be pretty vital to the business. So, an address. This whole website is about you. I'd like to see an about page, that's kind of fleshed out and things of that nature. So I think if you worked those angles, again, EAT is something that's like commonly overlooked. We've got an interview with Kyle Roof that really goes into that, if you want to look that up. But from an on-page standpoint, those are the only things that I would really consider messing with. Maybe a services section, and then some EAT value. I'm looking at the blog real quick, which looks like a long blank page, but you've got some sections here. Okay. Pretty heavy on the top 5 stuff, as I'm just looking down the blog, and like this makes me think, probably AI, but I don't know how many of these start off with top 5 XXXXX. Like, yeah. Don't overdo stuff like that. There's no reason for it. A lot of times you can attack the broader keyword and then kind of tag this top 5 stuff through the article. So don't go too heavy on that. I don't remember when it was exactly, but maybe a year or two ago, where specifically affiliate sites had gotten hit for being top this or best this article heavy, right? And so these are things that like people look at. And I know this is a local website, but again, you know, some stuff to watch out for. And then the articles seem to read fine. And of course, it's hard to tell. So if you are using AI, you know, or if anybody out there is watching this audit and curious about it, just make sure you're doing a lot of human editing and you're leaving out some of the stuff that's very obviously AI written. But overall, that looks okay. I would just cool it with the top 5 or best related articles here. All right, so let's get to the fun part, the off page. And you guys have a image here. If you look at it, you know, organic traffic's actually doing pretty well. I mean, they're not getting a whole lot of traffic, right? But it's coming up. Granted, it looks like it wasn't getting much traction until around January of 2025. And if they recently bought this site or just got started on it, you know, that looks pretty good. Domain rating isn't really going up, which makes me think that they're not really doing too much in the form of backlinking, at least no, you know, authority values. So let's get in there and check it out. Overall, though, I would say, you know, healthy. It came up off the floor and it's rising. So that's always a good sign. It means you've got some positioning in the SERPs and Google is starting to kind of test you out. So the first thing I like to check out are the anchors, as this is a place a lot of people will mess up, and it gives me a pretty clear indication on whether there's going to be a spam issue on the site or not. Starting out, you know, we've got naked, branded, and random kind of stuff. I see an exact match. It's only got 3 referring domains at this exact match. Very well blended in with very natural looking stuff. And then we see a bunch of random, more long tail kind of stuff come out. Yeah, so from an anchor standpoint, you know, this looks very clean in my opinion. Everything looks really good here. We'll jump on over to referring domains to see what kind of strength we've got, and then also get an idea again, you know, whether this is going to be spammier or whether we're going to have some like guest post kind of stuff. And right out of the gate, like you see some common stuff like pages.dev, SEO, flocks.io, yada, yada. All that is like common, you know, spammy directory kind of stuff or like crawler kind of stuff that's going to be there naturally. But it's not like too long before we start seeing what looks like, without knowing them, some solid blogs with solid metrics, the type of domain names you'd want to see associated with something like a photographer. So that all looks pretty clean as well. And then we'll go to the backlinks and actually manually comb stuff. You know, I've had a lot of people recently ask about third-party metrics or complain that one recently was that SEMrush, like a score that had to do with relating to the niche down specifics of a blog was of value. And yeah, you know, we don't adhere to any of that. And the reason is because we're using the best data, right, which is Ahrefs as far as we've got it, to manually comb this stuff. And if you learn how to do that, then no third-party metric is going to actually give you an indication better than that. You might use it to kind of like deduce what's going on if you got a whole noise of data, like, you know, you're auditing 1,000 sites or something like that, right? You break it down that way, but not with third-party metrics. You know, maybe start with like DR or even DA or something like that. But anyhow, yeah, manually combing and getting used to this is going to be like one of the best things, especially as a newer SEO, you can start doing, because you'll start seeing what kind of value comes out of different concoctions, mainly, you know, when it comes to backlinks. So yeah, don't forget to get in there, get kind of dirty with it, and start inspecting the backlinks like we're about to do right now. And so up top, you know, I'm going to just omit some of the spam stuff, but anything that looks like a blog post or niche edit or something, you know, quality, I'm going to pull it up and I'm just going to take a look at what kind of links we're getting. You know, the metrics on these look pretty good, especially for a local site. And some things you want to look for too is sometimes, you know, you'll look through a local site specifically, but a lot of different people do it. Pardon me. You think you've got a solid guest post, or like they've got a bunch of really nice guest posts, and what you need to do is Control F and check that anchor. A lot of times you're going to find them tucked down in the blog comments section. Now that's not a bad thing, but it's an indication, you know, of whether they're getting a really like a good authority link, which would be contextual and in the actual article itself, or if it's like a blog comment, which is really more of like a pillow link. Not to say that blog comments can't be good pillow links, they most certainly are, but yeah, it's the bread and butter we're looking for here, which is get guest posts and niche edits. And they have a good amount of guest posts on sites that look really good, very clean. Now, yeah, overall, I'd say, you know, as far as backlinking goes, these guys are well on their way. So, you know, if we look at what's going on, fairly new that they've been working on the site, or at least heavily. It looks like January is where things started popping off. And I'm going to add referring domains to the main graph here in Ahrefs on the overview section. And if you look here, then referring domains started going up at like the end of 24. And that's where they started building from. So, you know, depending on what they did with content, et cetera, it looks like that sort of started taking around January for them. And now everything seems to be kind of going in unison. So again, the on-page stuff that I told you about, and from a backlinking perspective, it looks like you're doing pretty well. You know, you could do things like add a press release to give you some press here and there. That's also like the only pillow link that I will continually do. You can do one pretty safely every 6 months to a year, depending on the size of like your business and link velocity and things like that. But overall, that's an easy thing to do if you're looking for more like pillow links. And then, you know, basically niche edits and guest posts. You know, stick to the quality. It looks like the quality you're getting is good. I don't see like a bunch of Fiverr related stuff or anything that would be on like a mass Excel file, you know, a la carte. So overall, I'd say you're doing pretty good. It's probably on page that I think needs a little help from the EAT perspective. And then again, if you don't have a GMB going for this, you definitely want to. Let me check one last thing. I'm going to try, is the site WordPress theme detector to see if this is WordPress or not. Because here at Sir Links-a-Lot, we definitely advocate for, yeah, okay, so it is a Squarespace site. I was kind of worried about that. Maybe they've gotten a little bit better over the years, but Squarespace is not going to give you the functionality that you want to really rank in Google or in search in general. If you want solid functionality, like you're going to have to, you know, learn a little bit more, but it's worthwhile, or it's very easy to find contractors that will, you know, help you build out a local website. And I would highly recommend getting on WordPress over Squarespace. You know, I haven't built an HTML site in forever. I rarely do it anymore. We stick to WordPress because of its ease of use, its ability to, you know, you can hire contractors nonstop with it, and its overall functionality as far as ranking in the SERPs, like that gives you the easiest functionality. And SEO is a full-time job. For any of you that, you know, look down on something like WordPress, you have to understand like the end game and the end result is that you want to make money in this game, and whatever's going to help you automate this job more efficiently is going to do that. Unfortunately, you know, Squarespace, I know, is like they give you nice layouts. It's easy to use. Anybody can do it. But then you're missing the back end functionality. that you would want in order to talk to the crawlers and then rank in the SERPs. So if you really want to be serious about ranking this website, then, you know, keep all that info in your back pocket, but get off Squarespace and jump over to WordPress. That's, you know, probably going to be the biggest thing. All right. Hope that helps. If you guys are watching the show, please like, comment, and subscribe, as it helps out a lot. And let's see if anybody has joined us. Okay, we got a couple questions over here. Let me go ahead and ask your questions, and I will get to them before I start another side out. In that case, Garrett says, do blogs posts still help, or is video better? Well, that's a fine question, because the fact of the matter is both help, right? And it's not really that one is better than the other. It's all going to be dependent on what your business is focused on or what you're trying to do with these particular assets, right? So if you're trying to rank a blog post for the sake of selling some products, then you've got SEO and ads value. You can do that with video as well, but it's all dependent on what you're trying to rank and why you're trying to rank it, right? There's no better. It's all dependent on what you need for your business. I hope that kind of answered. You know, it's a pretty broad question, so yeah, there is no better. Work on whatever you think you need to work on, and then you can rank either or up in the SERP. What is the main reason for huge decrease of organic page? Oh, well, there's a lot of variables that go in, to this question. Huge decrease can be caused by a lot of things. A lot of times, if you're seeing an abrupt decrease, then maybe there's been an algo shift recently that has affected your website in some negative fashion. So, you know, if a spam update hits and you're using a bunch of low quality AI content with stock images, no EEAT, and then on top of that, you are spamming your website with a bunch of worthless, kind of spam links, or, vendors that say get 2,000 plus links for $20 on certain websites, then these can all be reasons that you might tank. But yeah, a lot of times it's going to be, was there an algo shift? So one thing you can look up if something is, if you see a heavy shift in one of your websites as you're looking it up, then one thing you can use is the SEMrush SERP. Is it SERP? No. Volatility index. What do they call this thing again? SEMrush sensor. And here you'll get an indication of what's going on in the SERPs. You know, is there high volatility? Is there low volatility? Was there an update? Is something going on? Are they trying things out? And over this last, I would say, month or so, because there was a post in our group about it recently that Artemis put up, we're looking at some volatility happening at random about every other week. And now it seems to be tapering off a little bit, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, this gives great indication on what kind of stuff could be going on that could be affecting your site. And it's definitely worthwhile to keep this in your back pocket. So, what is the main reason? There's a lot of stuff. If you watch, like I just did a site audit, if you watch any of those site audits, I explained to you, if you've got Ahrefs or something similar, some things to check out would be your anchors, the referring domains you've got going, and then manually combing the backlinks. And if you do that, then you should be able to read like what's going wrong. And if you're not sure what you're looking at, then pull up a site in your niche that is ranking for a lot of stuff. Pull that up in Ahrefs and see what they've got going on. It's going to show you a comparison value basically between their backlink profile and what they're doing and what you're currently doing. And the more you get used to manually looking at that, at first it might not make a lot of sense, but the more you get used to manually combing and looking at all this data, you know, now I can go in and I'm basically on any site, you know, so long as it's not huge, I can audit that website pretty effectively within 10 to 15 minutes, unless there's something really weird going on. The same thing that I'm doing, you guys can do as well. So hope some of that stuff gives you a little bit of indication on where to start. Yeah, hope that helps. Again, if you like the show, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Helps a lot. Welcome back, everybody. We will be more normal as far as this show goes. I've got a new studio coming in by next week, which I was hoping I'd have ready this week, but I don't. Took a little longer for some of this stuff to get in. But yeah, same microphones as Joe Rogan, even, everybody. Oh, yeah, I'm excited. I hope y'all are too. I'm trying to bring a little more professionalism to everything. All right, another question. Cameron. To outrank a competitor, is it wise to review their backlink profile and build similar links? Well, yeah, it's always wise to check out what a competitor might be doing. So let's say you're in the dog toys niche. I'm just going to go ahead and show you how you can audit a competitor. And then, yeah, is it smart to try and get the links that they've got? In my opinion, it's worthwhile to try at least, right? But don't go crazy trying to match their exact backlink profile. That doesn't even make sense, right? For a lot of reasons. But if you want to manually comb what they've got going on and then try and do an outreach campaign or something like that to all these blogs that they've gotten links on, I don't see that as a bad strategy. You know, see what they've got, and then it can't hurt you. But at the same time, you know, that takes a lot of effort. Personally, I don't do any of that. I'll look at what strength they kind of look like, and I'm about to show you how. And then from there, I'm just going to start using my link networks. But you know, this is to each their own. Basically, you have to identify whether you want to save time or save money up front. And so, yeah, if nothing else, as a beginner or like as somebody who's working on this kind of stuff, I would say it's a good endeavor because it's going to teach you about outreach. It's going to kind of give you an indication of whether, you know, this is a good strategy or not. But again, remember that you're not trying to match your competitor by, well, you're not trying to match them, you're trying to beat them, right? So the concept of beating them is to go above and beyond whatever they have. So, you know, if I look at something and they're low on authority links, then I'll probably push the envelope a little bit, you know, more there. Or if they're missing some kind of like digital PR in a highly competitive niche, then I'm going to look for edges there where I can kind of tailor more specific campaigns to get really specific links. So like one thing that comes to mind in recent times is for incredibly competitive local metros with high competition. Now it seems like you really do need to do digital PR to get those specific links for that geographic region. You know, in smaller metros, you don't have to worry about it so much, but in competitive metros, I'm seeing that be a huge thing. So anyhow, let's say you're in dog toys, and I know this website is huge, chewy.com, but I'm just going to throw it into Ahrefs, and we're just going to comb over some of the stuff the same way that I would if this was a competitor I was trying to compete with. So Chewy.com is a huge website. They're backed by a ton of money. Let's just go ahead and assume that everything about the on page is perfect. Okay. And I'm sure they're probably doing a really good job regardless. And then we'll go ahead and bring Ahrefs over here, and we'll actually look at what we've got. So, if we look at referring domains, this blue line, domain rating, and then organic traffic over the last, what is this year, referring domains has gone up substantially this whole time. And domain rating flatline, that doesn't matter because they're an 86. They're a massive website, right? Everything is going to start moving real slow here. And then if you look at organic traffic, they are moving up substantially. And there is definitely a relation to this blue line, which is referring domains and their organic traffic. And I'm sure they've got new products coming out all the time. I'm sure they've got new articles coming out all the time. So again, let's assume that everything going on page is all accurate. So if I wanted to outrank this competitor, and that's not what we're doing, but this is just the same way that you would audit any of your competitors, what I would start looking at is probably what kind of referring domains they've got going on right out of the gate. If you see stuff like Pinterest, Apple, Google, like these are all going to be pillow links, right? For the most part. Maybe for a massive site like this, they actually do have some good links coming from some of these really sought after websites. But then you'll see other stuff in smaller. For smaller websites, you're typically not going to see a whole lot of the Guardian, New York Times, and stuff like that. But that's going to be an indication of digital PR kind of stuff. You're going to have to fight a little bit harder, or you're going to have to use tactics that might be a little bit off the cuff. So like 301 redirects can help you kind of hack some of that authority, things of that nature, right? If you come across a site like this, it's got a decent amount of stuff like bit.ly. Let's just call them pillow links, foundational style links. But then you're seeing, and for this one, it might be way down the line as they've got 272. But you're going to see like mommy blogs, things of that nature. The DR isn't going to be 91, right? Like we're going to start talking about DR of like 50 to 70, somewhere in there, which is still a very good authority link, but from smaller, kind of blogs. That's going to give you an indication that you're going to have to compete like fairly hard, all based on the DR of these websites, right? And again, if you're going through like a local site and it's only got 50 to 100 referring domains to it, this makes a lot more sense. I don't want to pull up a random website right now that's smaller and put them on blast, but this will still give you an idea of how to comb this kind of stuff. Then you can actually go over the backlinks. And like I mentioned previously, this is going to help you manually look at what kind of link they've got. So, do they have a contextual backlink in a really good article? Or is it a blog comment somewhere? You can look at how many keywords something like this inner page is ranking for, how much traffic. Things like this are incredibly competitive. That is a very good set of sites right there. This would be indication of if I'm competing with them, I'm probably going to need digital PR at some point, which is expensive, right? Because they're custom outreach campaigns specifically tied to what you need to get to compete in your market. And you can purchase high-end authority links like niche edits and guest posts, but for some of this stuff, you've got to go the extra mile. So if you're looking at a market like this, you're talking high competition. If we go down and look more like here, DR 50, 62, let me pull up these two. sassywolf.com. And it's a, it looks like, could be a PBN. Could be. Or they just had a, I mean, like it's a massive site. So also like this could just be, yeah, it's probably, well, yeah, could be a PBM, but probably not given this site. But you know, you're gonna look at stuff like this. Let's say this is a small pet blog, you know, and that's the strongest site that they've got is a DR50 small pet blog. Then I'd go ahead and say that you know, that's not too terribly competitive. You could easily match or beat something like that out with, you know, link services like ours or any number of other places as well. So, you know, stuff like this too. Decent blog, or, you know, nice blog. Let's call it a guest post. Things like that. You know, maybe medium competition if we're talking DR 50 to 62. You're going to have to take a look at the whole picture. So the overview of the competition. You're going to have to guess how hard it would be to get to these metrics from where you currently are, and then come up with a plan based on budget of how you would attack your content and your backlinks in unison to kind of to go after, you know, outranking your competitors. So while I think it's a good idea to review the backlink profile of your competitor, you know, and then even try and get on those blogs, it's not going to be the way you beat your competitor. Keep in mind that you're going to want to beat them by doing more than them. Hope that helps. All right, if no new questions right now, I'm going to jump into another site audit. And sorry if my connection is a little bit slow right now. Let me get us a new screenshot. And I might have to cut it short after this one if there's no other questions, just because we got a little late start and I do have a meeting in a little bit. Okay, and this guy gave me 2 sites. We'll do the first one here, and I'll give you guys a little indication of what's going on. Image coming right up. All right. So, hey guys, Nick was asking for sites in the Facebook group. And again, if you guys ever want me to take a look at one of your websites, go ahead and shoot it over to me, or to the crew rather, at info@sirlinksalot.co. We will add it to the queue for you. I like to do site audits. I like to find things that are a little bit trickier. So feel free to send over anything. Please give us a decent amount of info. That always helps on what you're, you know, worried about and what you're currently doing. But if not, we still know how to audit them. That's not a problem. So, okay, this is a client. For over 6 to 12 months and their timing. I've got 2 sites for Nick's team to take a look at. I'd love to hear what SLA packages I should purchase. Oh, okay. For each of them over the next 6 to 12 months and their timing. I'm giving up on doing outreach myself and leaning into your services going forward. All right. It's a 2-year-old site. It does very well in its niche, but it's missing out on ranking for the most competitive terms in this niche. I had very strong backlinks in the past, but lost all 6 super highly relevant monster authority links when I sold those linking sites about 6 months ago. Okay, that is why you will see the DR bouncing hard. My thought process is just consistently get 2 to 3 high quality links a month to build authority. May throw a barrage in 2 times a year, question mark. Okay, all right, so let's see what you got going on here. You know, that 6 super highly relevant monster authority links thing sounds a whole lot like a PBN if you sold it and then lost those links. But let's see if we can get to the bottom of it. All right, so at a glance, organic traffic's been on the decline for the last year, basically. Nothing too crazy, but a steady decline. Looks like it's lost about, let's say, a third of its traffic. Come January, we started getting aggressive with the referring domains. You know, we went from 130 to 655, right? And in that time, we haven't really gone up with domain rating. You lost it, like you said, you lost some domain rating from 45 down to 15, and you're saying it's because of 6 monster links. And then we've added like 6x the links, or referring domains rather, which has increased domain rating a little bit, but like nothing has happened as far as organic traffic. So yeah, there's definitely, you know, even just looking at this, there's definitely some weird stuff going on with this backlink profile and the way it's resonating in the SERP. So my guess is you're doing a little fishy stuff. And the concept that you've got about maybe getting 2 to 3 authority links per month isn't a bad concept. You know, a lot of that's going to depend on your budget and you know, how competitive your market is. But you rank for a ton of keywords, even losing a third over the last year. You know, yeah, I'd say this website is doing well. You've got 53,000 keywords, you know, 60,000 traffic. That's no small feat. And then let's go back to the DR thing. DR is the same as any other third-party metric. It can be manipulated, right? So I'm not too worried about what the DR is saying or the drop in DR or gaining DR. What I care about is how is that affecting my rankings. Overall, with the amount of referring domains that you've got coming in recently, at least this graph is plateaued when it comes to organic traffic. Let me go ahead and add organic pages in here too and get a little look at that. Yeah, so organic pages going up, so that's healthy. And yeah, you know, pretty plateaued on traffic. So I would say that all looks fairly okay. So don't worry about the DR. You know, what matters is what makes you money. Are you ranking or are you not ranking? Let's go ahead and jump into the anchors, which is where I always like to start after the overview. Again, this gives good indication on whether somebody is being spammy. And based on, you can always kind of tell, you know, I'm looking at referring domains. A whole bunch of spammy, like long tail. The stuff you want to see up top is naked branded and random stuff. And while this is kind of naked branded random, like, you know, when I see 33 long tail keywords right up to the top and a bunch of spam mixed in here, and then, yeah, I mean, like from an anchor's standpoint, this is spammy. And I'm going to go ahead and venture to guess that it's not very high quality links, just due to the fact that if you go to anchors and you look down referring domains, you'll see these like real awkward kind of amount of referring domains. So it starts off with 81. This is obviously spam. 45 to naked URL, which is fine. But as it goes down, then you see like a bunch of weird numbers repeat themselves: 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And typically, like you see this with cheaper blasts that are going to include like a bunch of like Web 2.0 spam and stuff like that. Whereas previously I would inject some spam into like my personal campaigns sometimes if I wanted to rank real heavy real quick. I don't do it anymore. Like for example, that case study that I did a few years back, 0 to 10,000 real quick, it's down to nothing last I checked. I don't operate on that thing anymore, but the tactics I took on early for that website, like they paid off. It worked out fine, but there was no longevity to it. Once the algo started picking up, especially on like AI kind of spam, it was game over for that website. So I don't like doing stuff that's not put together with longevity out of mind. So yeah, something to watch for are these over optimized anchors, but also these weird spammies. So let's go into referring domains. We'll get an indication of how strong the backlink profile of the referring domain profile is. Got some EDU stuff here that could be okay if it's a repurposed website. Again, yeah, sorry, I didn't go over it, but this is an education-based site. So actually, it's got some really nice EDU links in here, or stuff like Education World. If they repurposed a website, then this would be a nice starting point, at least there. Let's go to backlinks and actually manually comb stuff. So yeah, first seen some of these nice links that I was talking about, 2023. So my guess is this is probably an expired domain that's been repurposed. Let's see when it was last registered by going to whois.com and putting this website in the search bar. So it looks like it was registered in 22, but updated 0424, which my guess is, maybe you started building this about a year ago. I could go to archive.org and look at the archive information on this website. Basically, it'll tell you when this website that exists right now started, if you go look back in the history of it. But that would be my guess. You've got an expired domain here. Looks like you found something with pretty nice links. What I'm not seeing is a whole lot of new links, and if there are new links, my guess is that's where the spam is coming from, because I know a lot of you guys, especially the ones working in this education niche, if that's what you want to call it or whatever, yeah, you'll love the expired domain to spam route. And yeah, so like the newer stuff I'm seeing, I don't even have to pull any of it up. Like this is all spammy link building. Comes from, it's the kind of stuff that you see when you buy like a cheap blast. And like the days of doing SEO, I mean, I can't say that you're not doing well. Like you are doing well, right? But you could probably be doing a lot better if you kept some of this stuff a bit cleaner. So, if it's working, then that's fine. But if you're making money off this, then start investing some money in some quality links. And again, we sell them. You know that, but stay away from some of this other stuff. Like if you go to backlinks and then sort by last seen, all this stuff coming in is just junk directories, low end stuff. And especially if you're doing this and then all you're talking about getting is like 3 to 4 high quality links, this kind of stuff can skew the value that those few links are bringing, because a lot of this is just drowning this website in what looks like spam. Now, do I think you need a disavow? No. Again, we're not staunch supporters of disavows over here. But what I would do is, if you're spending money on this, then stop spending money on this and just put that towards the budget of just higher quality links, right? That's really going to be your best bet here, in my opinion, is higher quality niche edits, guest posts, things of that nature. Obviously, you're doing well in your niche. It's probably not too terribly competitive given the amount of traffic you've got and are going after it. I think if you just clean that up a little bit, it's going to go a long way for you. So higher quality links. If you are ordering this spam showing up, then get away from that. And I know we reversed this one, but let's go ahead and check out your on page. We did the off page. Usually we start the opposite way and just get it like an idea what's going on. So again, education, aggregate sorts, pretty fleshed out, kind of annoying. Curious if this would be like maybe a partial archive rebuild or something like that. Again, I could go to archive and check, but yeah, maybe not. You could always get a little more oomph by upping the EEAT. Might be hard if you don't have an address, things like that. But that kind of stuff could be fleshed out. And then outside of that, it kind of operates like what I think is oh, well, it's not quite a blog roll. Yeah, it's a downloadable template thing. So, I mean, it seems to be working pretty well. Again, like EAT is something I'm always talking about, but for some sites like this, maybe it's a little bit harder to flesh some of that stuff out. But you can always figure out how to get, an author in there writing some blog stuff, etc. And I don't see a blog now that we're talking about that. So if you don't have a blog going on, then that would definitely be an opportunity for you to kind of flesh some of this stuff out, get author pages going and things of that nature, and building from there, that also could help you out. But from backlinking perspective, if you work these other angles, yeah, just stick to bread and butter. It's guest posts, higher authority stuff, and then try and get your rank graph corrected. Stop adding all this other spam that I'm guessing started. Again, let's go look at the graph. Around January, because that's where we went up 6x in the referring domains. But these are, like as I was combing it at a glance, I don't see a whole lot of quality stuff in the recent link building efforts. Maybe there's some sprinkled in there, but again, you're getting so much of it, 6x since January, that if you are getting 2 to 3 quality links in there, it's drowned out, in the data. So be careful for that, as you could be spending money on quality links and not getting the oomph you want out of them because all the spam coming in unison. And if you're not doing the spam, then monitor that. And maybe if it keeps going up and you see your graph tipping, then yeah, that might be one of the times where I'm like, you can, get rid of it, or you can up with a disavow file. or you can up your link velocity with authority links, but that's going to only be if budget permits, right? So yeah, I hope that helps. If another thing, if you guys ever have questions about link building, one product that we've got that's really solid to look into is the Managed Link Building program. That's where we've got monthly campaigns done for you at no additional cost, and you get monthly reporting on that includes an audit of the website, what it looked like previously, and what was done, how that resonated with your site, and then what your rep is going to do for the following month as well. So completely done for you, backlinking campaigns handled in-house by our crew. I really would advise, if you've got questions on link building, that's always a good place to check out. All right, let's see here. Cool. All right. Well, we are just shy of an hour. Yeah, I can stand to get off and prep for something before I've got this meeting. So if there's no other questions, and end the stream there. Again, subscribe if you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Thanks a lot.